Bardholi Satyagraha. The Bardholi Satyagraha, which took place in the state of Gujarat during the British Raj, was a major episode of civil disobedience and revolt in the Indian independence movement. It took place in the year 1928. The Satyagraha had commenced on 12th June 1928. The peasant movement was eventually led by Vallabhbhai Patel, and its success led to Patel becoming one of the main leaders of the independence movement. In the year 1925, the Taluk of Bardholi suffered financial crisis due to various calamities. The government of Bombay presidency had raised the tax rate by 30% for the year, and despite petitions by the civic groups, it refused to cancel the raise. The situation for the farmers was grave enough that they barely had enough property and crops to pay the tax and feed themselves afterwards. The Gujarat activists Narahari Parikh, Ravi Shankar Vyas and Mohanlal Pandya spoke to the farmers and village chieftains. They had solicited the help and guidance of state's most prominent freedom fighter Vallabhbhai Patel. Vallabhbhai Patel, toughened and wizened by the successful leading the Kheda Satyagraha, had accepted to guide the farmers. Patel had clearly detailed the hardships the agitators would face if they would refuse to pay the tax, the likelihood of their lands, cattle and property getting confiscated by the British Raj. The villagers and the farmers were prepared for the worst and not succumb to government's injustice. Patel then had consulted Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi had consented when Patel was sure of the success of the movement. Mahatma Gandhi and Patel had agreed that the Satyagraha would be led by the peasants without the involvement of Mahatma and the Congress. Patel had written to the governor of Bombay asking him to reduce the taxes in the face of the calamities, but the collector had not only ignored the plea but also had intimated the date of collection. Patel had instructed all the farmers of Bardholi Taluk to refuse payment of the taxes. With the aid of Narahari Parikh, Ravi Shankar Vyas and Mohanlal Pandya, he had divided Bardholi into several zones, each one led by a leader and volunteers. Patel had also placed some volunteers close to the government to act as informers on the moves of government officials and the government. Patel had also instructed the farmers to remain completely non-violent and avoid physical confrontation irrespective of the provocation. The entire state of Gujarat supported the Satyagraha, but Patel was adamant and sure that only the farmers of Bardholi would participate in the Satyagraha and not others from different parts of Gujarat and India. The government had made clear that it would crush the revolt and used strong arm methods to break the Satyagraha. The lands, houses and livestock were confiscated. There were no takers for the auction of the land and other properties. Members of the legislative councils of Bombay and officials across India were angered by the strong arm actions of the government, and many Indian members had resigned their offices and expressed solidarity with the farmers. In 1928, an agreement was finally brokered by the Parsi member of Bombay government. It agreed to restore the confiscated lands to the rightful owners. It had also accepted to cancel the 20% raise, but for that year and the succeeding year. The government had appointed Maxwell Broomfield Commission to look into the matter. The commission, after a scrutiny, the raise was limited to 6.03%. Though the movement had been successful, the bonded labor system still remained. The momentum from the Bardholi Satyagraha victory aided in restoration of the freedom struggle nationwide, culminating in Congress declaring Indian independence during 1930 and the launching of Salt Satyagraha. The women of Bardholi had bestowed the title of Sardar for the first time. Sardar meant chief or leader. It was after Sardar Patel had become one of the India's most important leaders of the freedom movement. Hey.